I read all the books, I did all the things, I still was completely in the mess.
How do we actually know if it's working or not?
We are doing the work and maybe we have some effects, but we are not having this relief. We are not like fundamentally changed on an identity level. We just worked a little bit on the symptoms, and then we can even get addicted to the meditation or the practice or the things that we like to explore.
Wow, am I doing it wrong?
I think this is already showing the I would say like the distorted perspective, because there is no right or wrong in doing things.
So Sven, you have been a therapist and a coach working with people for over 15 years. So you have seen a lot. What made you notice that inner work is sometimes actually not working for people?
Yeah, of course, this is a very deep question. And when we were planning for this session, I was thinking about, so what is like the main core point that I like to address? And I would say like upfront, it's not that inner work is not working or that everything is just not making sense. But I think when I look into the experiences of many of my clients who have been in therapy for many years, who have been doing a lot of reflection work, what I can see is that they are intellectually very aware and self-reflected. So they know their patterns, they might even know where things are coming from, and yet they are still struggling with the results or with the effects of those patterns. And when I'm also looking into my own history of self-transformation, and I was really kind of, self-transformation junkie. I was really trying to find everything that I could find just to help myself to explore things at a certain point, and that was humbling as well as frustrating. I also recognized, you know what, now I did all the things. So I read all the books, I did all the things, and now I'm sitting here and I'm experiencing the same painful emotional states, or the same questions are still not answered. And that made me curious, because I recognize even going through many different methods, techniques, maybe also different perspectives of how we can see the human being, I still wasn't getting the answers. I still didn't feel that the suffering is getting less. I still was completely in the mess. And and this is an experience that I had many, many times.
So interesting. So just for us to understand a bit more, like, so when you say, your clients, like you mentioned, or you in your experience, you were suffering still. Like, how can I picture a person that is doing inner work and still 5 years in? How does this person like behave? How is this person? Because I'm thinking, like, I'm also doing inner work. How, and the listeners are doing inner work. How do we actually know if it's working or not? How do I look like 5 years in if it's working, and how do I look like if it's not working?
Yes, absolutely. So I think there are different layers or levels in which transformation is taking place. And I would say on the most upfront level, maybe I have a feeling that I don't really like. Maybe I have something that is kind of is a challenge for me. So I want to find something that helps me in the moment. And so I'm reaching out. Maybe I do meditation or mindfulness, and all those things are really important and very necessary. At the same time, most of the time, I'm just on the most upfront level. I'm doing some sugar coating, or maybe I just get a little bit of release, but the underlying deeper patterns are not really addressed. And so when people are doing inner work, of course, they have those insights, they have reflections, they understand more about themselves, yet the driving mechanism is still active, and they find themselves still in the same arguments, or they have the same moments where they recognize that things are not feeling as they would like to feel them. And so there is this dynamic of making progress and at the same time staying stuck and what is happening. And maybe there are slight advancements, but on the deeper level, the transformation is not taking place.
So is there, in your opinion then, is there modalities that work better than others? Because inner work can be so much, right? So what do we mean with inner work? And do you think there are modalities that work better or that are more important, or what is your experience in that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think when we are beginning on our journey, we think, okay, so if I do this, then I get that result. So we have this kind of causal idea, because we are linearly thinking. We think, okay, if I work on that topic, then I get that result. And then we're doing the thing, and maybe a little bit gets better, but it's not I would say, like the full transformation, the full healing, or whatever we are truly looking for. So first, like in the beginning phase, we have a misconception about what transformation is, about what healing is, about what inner work truly is. And so then we are doing the work, and maybe we have some effects, but we are not having this relief. We are not like fundamentally changed on an identity level. We just worked a little bit on the symptoms. And then when we go deeper with the work, and we might have the chance to really heal certain things that have come up in our lives, then there are those moments, and I think that these are really peculiar moments where we really sense very deeply, wow, and now something is shifting, now something is changing. And these are the moments where the true transformation is taking place. And most of the time, it's not a causal reaction. It is something that goes on a much deeper level.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically, it's not like you do one modality, let's say meditation, and you think of, okay, this is going to make me calmer. Let's take that example because it's very common, right? People think, okay, I meditate and then I get calmer and I don't react as much, right? So basically what you're seeing is that people can meditate and maybe on a surface level they seem calmer, but the underlying patterns are still running. So if like a trigger comes, they're still being triggered and falling into old patterns, even though they might have meditated for many years.
Yes, exactly. And I think also here, like we are very complex, and we always we have, like, human beings have a tendency, if they find something that seems helpful, that we go all in with it, and we think, oh, this is a solution. Finally, we experience some relief. But what I also notice with many practitioners is, I mean, like, I had like intense fights with Zen masters who are meditating like for 30 years or whatever. I have seen also in the plant medicine scene people that are doing ayahuasca for 15 years, and they are still, I would say, like, they are still seeking, or they have still certain things going on that are very difficult on the relationship side, or, like, it is as if we're then doing the thing because it becomes a habit, but it does not really lead deeper into a deeper ground of understanding and towards this identity shift. And it doesn't mean that those modalities, as you say, that they are not working, but the way we approach it and also what we think we get from it might be off.
Okay, so then I'm curious, like, how do you think we should approach it? Because I think a lot of us, like, listening now, we're wondering, like, am I doing it wrong? Like, I'm right now listening to you, I'm like, wow, am I doing it wrong? And how can I do it right? Because obviously, we are doing this to make big changes in our lives. And I feel personally, sometimes it feels so slow. And yes, sometimes I'm wondering, is this actually working on myself? Um, so how can I know that I'm doing these things right? Is there like an indicator that tells me you're on the right track, or this is the right thing, you're doing it correctly?
Yeah, I think this is already showing the I would say like the distorted perspective, because there is no right or wrong in doing things. You know, because when I was so eager to learn and do the things right, and I was practicing and doing it, and then learning more and doing more of this and bringing in more and more different things, always with this mindset of I want to achieve something. I want to come to a place. I want to arrive at a certain destination. When we are asking, am I doing it right? Is it the right way to do it? This is already showing that we are looking through the wrong lens, because there is no right or wrong. And when I look into my own experiences, I was so eager to learn. I wanted to do it right. I had this kind of achievement mindset. Like when I'm very eager, when I'm very curious, when I do the things right, then finally I will come to a point where I feel the relief. And I think this is already brings a lot of pressure to many. And then we can even get addicted to the meditation or the practice or the things that we like to explore. Um, but I would say like the idea here is much more to recognize what is going on inside of you and noticing what is taking place and in which ways this is helpful or not. And then you can navigate more, I would say like with more maturity.
Hmm. Okay, so basically, um, me noticing if it's working or not is reflecting back on myself. I mean, I love what you said, that because I think a lot of people are, including myself, are thinking, okay, I do this and then I get this. Like it's linear, no, a linear mind. It's like I do this, then I get this. I do this, then I heal this, and then I get this. Um, but then if it's not working like that, and if we're not getting linear results, um, then the indicator you say is that I'm noticing more of how I'm behaving myself. Like I'm getting more self-aware. Is this like a good indicator to understand I'm on the right path? Or what would you say is it?
Yes, so I think because we are so trained in our conditioning that if we do the right things, we will get the right things. We don't have the patience to really see what is taking place. And as I experience it also with my clients, the greatest transformation is coming from a totally different angle. Suddenly something is happening that that we didn't see coming, and then the transformation is taking place. And I think like many of the frameworks that we are using also scientifically, like if you have this brain chemistry and then you take this medicine, then you will have that result. And this is actually like exactly this kind of thinking. But when we look into the mystical traditions, for example, it is very clear that you do the practice and you do the work and there are certain guidelines. But the transformation itself, the deepening of your self-understanding, the wisdom that is opening up for you is something that you receive from a deeper ground. And I would say like the idea is, how can we connect to that deeper ground? Because in my experience, in every human being, there is some sort of intelligence, a deeper intelligence. You might call it maybe the unconscious or that the soul, whatever you like to bring forward. It depends on what kind of lens you're looking through, that wants us to grow. And it uses very sometimes strange ways of teaching us, of guiding us. And if we are so fixated on a specific way of doing it, we are limiting ourselves. And I say that from the experience of really trying so many things, and yet waking up, having depressive episodes, not feeling well, questioning myself, fighting with reality. And of course, the thing is, yeah, did anything change? Of course, through the things that I was doing, I was becoming wiser. And at the same time, I'm still struggling with that, maybe on a different level, but still there are those challenges. And I think when we're shifting into a perspective where you say like, okay, it might be that those challenges, that those difficulties, that those things that we experience, we don't have to kind of make them go away, but we can use all of that then we are starting to go onto a deeper path.
Wow, I think this is so interesting, because I think so often we don't want things. We reject them, we resist them, we don't want them. And this is why we often start doing this work, right? Because we don't want certain things. But now what you're saying is we should use them instead of reject them. We should actually use them. How would you how do you in your work, for example, with clients, can you give us an example of how this would play out where something happens and we actually use it for our healing? We don't try to get rid of it by meditating it away or something?
So I think one of the most profound things we can do on our path is to learn to be with the uncomfortable things that are taking place inside of ourselves. So, of course, when I have a session with a client and they had a very difficult situation and they are sitting there and maybe they cry because they say, oh, it's so difficult. It's so bad. I don't want to experience it. Why is it happening to me? Like all those questions that are very human. I don't want to make that go away. Of course, I want to help the person, but I don't want to make it go away. But having the safety and the space and also the confidence that we can feel through all of that, that we can be with that, and it might even take a couple of weeks or a couple of months, brings this resilience. And suddenly we come into a new mode of working with these things. They are still maybe unpleasant. We still don't want to feel them, but we are able to be with them without freaking out, without coming to too early conclusions, without trying to suppress it. We can allow more and more of ourselves to be there. And this actually is, I would say, what it's really all about, where the healing is taking place, that I can learn to be with myself, with everything that is happening. And this brings this deepening and also the expansion of my own consciousness, of my own emotional stability and everything that is related to that.
So interesting. So would you actually say that this is where people get the inner work mostly wrong, that they can't sit, let's say, with their pain?
Yeah, this is one of the aspects. And for example, when I look into the current self-help and self-development work, we have all those systems. It should be quick. We want to manifest it very quickly. There are the hacks, there are the frameworks, and we always go from this idea that we can fix something, that there is a secret golden rule. If we just find the master in India, everything will be done. There are so many ideas, but actually, I would say, on the deepest level, those things are, in a way, outside little shiny objects. If we would just allow ourselves to be with whatever is happening and we would let it work through us, there is an intelligence in it that works through us. And if we are able more and more to allow that, then suddenly a much deeper transformation is taking place. And it doesn't mean that when I feel, when I'm in a bad state, I want to remove that bad state. I mean, that's super normal. I don't want to stay in a deep, difficult situation for too long. But as I learn to really be with that and allow myself to be in that state, I recognize that then in a very natural, organic way, shifts can happen very quickly.
I mean, I find it so interesting what you're saying because it's so counterintuitive. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like you don't want to feel these things, and that's why also I think, I would assume a lot of people come to you with a specific problem or issue that they do want to get rid of, that they don't want to feel a certain way, they want to reach certain things. So it's a bit mind-bending what you're saying now, because you're saying actually that we shouldn't start there. And we do something which is so counterintuitive of sitting it. So I'm thinking, so does that mean I just have to accept where I am
it's a very funny thing. Of course, we do both at the same time. We allow ourselves to be where we are. We accept what is there. This is like called surrender. And at the same time, while we're very present with what is going on, there are also ways of working with that. It's not that we are just saying, okay, now I have to just allow everything, and then at the certain moment I will be fine. No, we are doing both at the same time. So first comes acceptance, comes being with it. But then we can also use techniques or practices or exercises to get more stable in it, to work with the material. So actually, it's a little bit like an art project. You don't try to force something into being, but you let the things come up, you work with them. And then you also take the colors, you paint the picture, you decide, I want to have here a little bit more blue. Then there might be a moment where you just choose red and you don't even know why. And you see how the composition comes together. So I see that really like a process of art, actually, as if you're composing something or if you're painting a picture. And sometimes we don't even know why our fingers are playing this melody. It's just coming up. And sometimes we say, oh no, here we need a specific instrument. So we are intentionally going in that. And this brings us into a mode, I would say, like a lifestyle in which we live in both worlds at the same time. We are, quote unquote, optimizing ourselves, but we are also allowing ourselves to be in the way we truly are.
Mm. So in a way, it's like it's like paradoxes at the same time. You kind of you accept things as they are, but you're also working on them because they're also not going away just by themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So Carl Gustav Jung, which I really love a lot because he had a lot of profound depth and insight, he said, life is a complexio oppositorum. We always have to do with opposing forces. Whenever we think, now I have it, then another thing pops up. And then we say, oh, here it is, let's go there. And then it comes back on a different level. So we are always in this paradox world. And the thing is, I don't say that you cannot achieve a very specific goal or objective with a very specific technique. But if we are opening up our mind to this idea that things are not as linear and as causal as we try to make them to be, then suddenly on a deeper level, transformation can take place that we cannot get into without allowing it to happen.
Like, why do you think we are so linear in our thinking? It's like I personally, like, I never question it, and I think a lot of people that work with therapists and coaches kind of expect a certain outcome. It's kind of like the way it is. It's like, why is this so ingrained in us that this is how it works?
I think, of course, it has to do with social culture upbringing. I don't know it because I haven't been growing up there, but in the Eastern traditions, things are not seen as linear or not as experienced as linear. There are concepts and ideas about how reality works, how the mind works, how the psyche works, that are way more multidimensional, I would say. There's much more space for the things that we are talking about here. But with the, I would say, like scientific revolution, I think, therefore I am, this idea, I can think what I want, I can become what I want. If I know what it is, I can just make it happen. I can, in a way, force or bend reality in those, like maybe with the rules of physics. And then comes quantum physics and says, no, this is nonsense. Everything works completely different. It's completely strange. We have no idea, and I think this is. I'm not like so much a fan of this. Oh, the quantum mind, because I think we are just dabbling in the dark there. But at the same time, it gives us a clue that the mind and the psyche works maybe on totally different and on a totally different firmware. We cannot just make things happen, and of course, it sells so well, if you want to accomplish it, just do this. If you want to be successful, just do that. And everyone is selling that. And I'm always like wondering, like, okay, so why isn't it working for me? It doesn't make sense, you know?
It's so true. I mean, you see that this past year so much, right? This like manifestation gurus popping up everywhere, like, or the 5 steps to getting what you want. Um, and so, I mean, you basically what you're saying is like, this is not how it works. Do you believe in manifestation yourself? Or do you say all of this, like, it's not how it works and there is like this something else that is random that leads us to a result?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not a fortune teller or whatever. You know, like only have my own experience, and I think, of course, in a way, we are manifesting things. Otherwise, we wouldn't sit here, and we are able to create things. I think, yeah, like human beings are creators, and of course, the way we think, the way we feel, changes our reality. So now comes the problem. The guy in the video says, okay, so you just have to be in the frequency and in the mindset of achievement, and then you are in a successful mindset, and then the success comes. And I'm sitting there, I'm doing all the things, I'm making everything right, but the success isn't coming. And it's boggling me. I feel shit because of it. You know, how is it possible? This guy says, if I'm doing the things. So, and now I have this, oh, yeah, I'm in this bad mood. I shouldn't be in this bad mood. How can I make myself come out of the bad mood? And then the next layer of stress comes, and the next layer, and the next layer. And I think this can be very difficult. And what's also challenging is most of the time that when you look into specific, yeah, as you said, like modalities or practices, that when people go into that and they do the work and they recognize, yeah, but in a way it's not fully working for me, then it's said like, yeah, but then this is because you do something wrong. This is because you don't have the right mindset. This is because you are not purified enough or whatever, you know, and then the next layer of pressure comes on top. And I think this is a very difficult thing. And yeah, and now we also have another layer of that causal thinking, which is like, yeah, ask AI like who you are and what you are and what you should do. And of course, it's very linear, and we can find out some things about how our emotions work and things like that. But on the deeper ground, what we are talking about, like true transformation, real inner healing, real inner progress, takes place in a different way. This is my experience.
Mm.
There is some, how to say that, there is some miracle component in it. When can it take place? What is the right moment for it? Are we ready for it? Are we prepared for it? Are we humble enough? Can we receive it? You know, we cannot just make it happen.
Yeah. So do you, in your experience, well, first of all, have you seen miracles?
Yeah, I mean, like, how do you define a miracle? So I have seen and experienced myself moments of healing that went far beyond what we might explain. You know, where a person in a moment is so elevated, has this eureka moment where from a deeper ground something shifts and moves forward, where if you are experiencing it, it's like, whoa, what is this? How is that possible? And where you really recognize how a profound transformation has been taking place. And I wouldn't call that miracle healing or whatever. There might be people that are able to do that. I think maybe we don't have the right definition of how things work, so we think it's a miracle. I think everything that is taking place in a way is very natural. But there are certain, I would say, like moments of transformation that are really rare. And when they happen, it's really deep because you recognize, okay, this is a moment where a topic that I have been battling with maybe 20 or 30 years all of my life, where it's released and I can just move forward.
Um, I mean, if you're up for sharing, like, how does that moment feel when you think, okay, now old pattern has been released? What does that person feel?
Yeah, I would say it depends a little bit on the pattern. And it also depends a little bit on which level the transformation is taking place. So for example, there are methods you can work with. For example, EMDR. Like you go into the state, into maybe a challenging feeling. There is this hand movement. You follow it, and the pattern is overwritten, and you don't even understand why. Like it's like it's something that is taking place maybe on the level of the brain, whatever it is, and it's taking place. And it can be also like very calm. You don't really experience like a full-blown epiphany where you recognize like, oh, now I see it. And so deep healing can take place in very calm moments, and not even spectacular, I would say. And then there are those moments where you are really, really deeply moved, where you sense that you have come to a new ground, to a new understanding of yourself, where it's like a little revelation about who you are. Suddenly you recognize something about yourself that you were not able to see before, but you always knew it is there. Like it's a very strange thing. You had this longing for that part of you. You, in the deepest heart, you knew it is there, but you could not reach it. And then when you come in touch with it, when you connect to yourself, and this is what it's all about, when you reconnect to yourself, to this deeper ground, then you feel a huge relief. It's really like a moment of revelation about yourself and a deep reconnection. And of course, this is most of the time very profound, because when that happens, addiction's gone. Self-hate drops. Maybe things like consistent lying stops. Like there are really, these are those moments where patterns, behaviors start to change dramatically, that we might try to change for years, and suddenly we can just do it. And this was also something that I never really understood. Like I have a pattern, I don't want to do it. I repeat it again and again. I understand the pattern. I do all the work. I still do it. And then there comes a moment where I just not do it anymore. And it's like, oh, I'm not doing it anymore.
Wow. So, like what I have experienced sometimes is like this moments where I feel like, okay, I've met myself, or, something profound happened. And it really feels profound. And it is profound. And then I go back to my daily life on Monday. And on Monday, suddenly, this is gone, So, and then, you start questioning exactly like the topic of today, like, is this really working? But it really felt real. It felt so profound, so deep. And yet, somehow, it's not sustainable. How do you explain that? Or what is that in that moment?
Yeah, so I think that's really, really beautiful how you describe it. Like we have this moment and we think like, oh my gosh, now I'm saved. Everything from now on, everything will be good. And then comes the next day and you're like, shit, I still, why it's gone. But like my experience is, like when you had a high moment, you have to balance and normalize again. So there are those, like we have a baseline. Sometimes we are below the baseline. Sometimes we're a little bit up the baseline. And then there are moments where we like really go high on a peak and it's like, whoa, holy smokes, something is happening. And then of course we want to stay at that peak, but we go a little bit deeper back to normal. And what I would say is, we will never go back to the old normal. There might still again be feelings that we don't want to have, or the Monday morning, the email that we read that is really stressing us out. It's still stressing us out. But the way we tackle those stress moments, the way we're integrating things has changed. It might not be like the full transformation that we are completely new being and people cannot really uh, don't um, don't see us anymore because they're like, who is that guy? He's completely changed. No, I think we are going a little bit back again, but still something has fundamentally shifted, and it also needs time and integration. So sometimes you have a deep insight, a deep transformation, a deep healing, and then it just needs a couple of weeks or months to be integrated. Still, you're like, okay, so now I'm coming to the moment where I'm not just having this peak, but I'm living the new way. And what's also very interesting is because as human beings, we cannot remember all the things. We are not comparing all the time. So maybe we are changing and we don't even get it. But then when we look back, we say like, yeah, I really changed. That's strange, I'm not having those episodes anymore. I didn't really recognize it, but now I don't have them anymore. And I think this is also something that is taking place a lot.
Yeah, so it's like an incremental change, basically,
Absolutely.
happening over time. Yeah. I wanted to ask you something because you mentioned it, and also now when you said like peak experience, because like in the topic of psychedelics, which is like so super hot right now, and I just talked the other day with a friend of mine who has a friend that is doing every month ayahuasca ceremonies, and it's like every time it's like, oh, now I got it. Apparently, this friend is like that. Now I have it. Now I have it. And it's exactly like what you say. It's like he has all of these experiences. Nothing is changing actually in his life. It's over years now. Nothing is changing, but he has very frequently these big experiences. And from what you're saying is basically like maybe he doesn't integrate it right because it needs some time to actually land, and then there is the next peak, so this kind of experience don't really land anywhere. How do you explain it? This specifically we see, I think, in the psychedelic realm with people that are doing a lot of psychedelics that you wonder sometimes like, okay, how is this actually working for them? Or is this working at all for them?
Yes, yes. So I think there are two different ways of approaching psychedelics, and one is like the curious psychonaut, the explorer, just trying things out and having amazing experiences. And some can be very transformational, some can be very threatening, or even detrimental and re-traumatizing. But if we look into what on the scientific side of things, where a lot of research is taking place these days, and it has already been taking place in the 60s and 70s, maybe even a little bit before, where there are, I would say, like processes or protocols and how you prepare for a psychedelic session, how you have the psychedelic session, and how you integrate afterwards. Because one of the things that came out in studies is that when we have an experience on psychedelics, things can feel very real, more real even than like being with here, you now in this conversation, but they are not true. They feel more true than everything else, but they are not true. So there is also like this idea of having like false interpretation of what is true and what is not true. So this is one of the aspects. And what I experienced when I was doing psychedelics in my youth, and I was not having this understanding of how to do it, I would say like therapeutically or doing for deeper transformation, that I had those high moments and they were amazing. And I thought, now I understand the universe and it felt so good. And then I wanted to have it again and again and again and again. And so we are becoming tourists, like we are always looking forward to the next big bang. And at the same time, we have not enough time, and maybe also not the, how to say that, the right frames for integrating that. It's not so easy if you have an intense experience making sense of that in a way that it really lands in life. It needs a lot of time and also understanding about how the psyche works and how we process things. So if we are tapping into something that is archetypal, that is can be very profound and can be elevated, and then we come into our lives again, and we're arguing with our partner or our boss annoys us, and we don't know how to bring that together. And I think actually at a certain moment also it's sad, but people don't recognize, okay, maybe it's time to stop with the psychedelics and do other things in life that are a little bit more, how to say that, boring, but necessary to really integrate and bring change into our behaviors. And at the same time, of course, there is a great opportunity with psychedelics to heal and transform deeper patterns, of course.
Yeah. So, like, I wonder, in your work, you talked about like transforming the deeper patterns, that this is actually, what really makes inner work work. Um, can you tell us a little bit about like what kind of modalities you use to change these deeper patterns?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, I don't want to go too much into the complex things here, but the methodology that I'm using is a mix of different things, of course, that I learned the last 15 years. And I would say, and this comes back to what we have been talking about, creating a safe space in which the things that need to be seen can be seen without fear, without judgment, and without the need to make something out of it, to bring it to a specific point, gives the opportunity for the psyche, for the subconscious, for the unconscious to bring forward what we have not been able to see, bring forward what we don't want to feel. So it's an experience. People experience themselves when I work with them on a very deep level. And of course, there are certain moments where we need to do maybe clarification, where we need to bring alignment, where we need to address healing. And of course, there are practices or ways of doing that, making sense out of that. But I would say, like, if I would really bring it down to a very simple thing, it's just having a safe space where the client allows themselves to go really deep with what is going on inside of them, and activating those layers and dimensions of them that they have been pushing away, that they were too afraid to tap into, that is too overwhelming to process alone. And so all of this material can come forward and can be processed, and it becomes meaningful, and there is we're making sense of it. And my approach always has been, also here going with Carl Gustav Jung, phenomenological. What the person experiences is their reality, and it's not about me to judge if this is right or wrong. Of course, when we look into psychology, we need to address, like, maybe, or is it psychosis? Is it depression? Is it this? Is it that? But in the work over 15 years, where I really also work with people that had a lot going on, they have been in 3 or 4 different therapies. They were not able, they were maybe sometimes even on medication for certain things. They were not able to process it. We do two or 3 sessions and it makes sense. And just because I was not labeling it, I was not saying, oh, you are ill, it's this, it's that, it's borderline, it's, you of course it helps to get a specific name or tag for what you're experiencing, but you are not this.
Mm.
And then when we allow things to unfold on its own, on their own terms, then things can shift very quickly. And I would say the most important thing that I can do for the people is I be there. I have no fear about anything that comes up. I'm not judging, and we are curious. I always say, like, let's explore that. I cannot promise you a certain outcome. Let's explore what comes up, and this already is a relief, because we always try to be the best version of ourselves, and we always try to do the good things and the right things. But here's a moment where everything can just come up, and then we work with it, and we bring structure and clarity into it. And this is most of the time very transformative.
Yeah, it certainly like sounds very transformative. And what comes to me when I hear you speak, it's like this thing, like, you can't do it alone. It's like, I think a lot of inner work is so much nowadays about you, and you read a book or you sit in meditation.
Hmm.
And this really feels like we need someone to hold space for us, to be there with us in it, to guide us to this sort of experience that we are too afraid to do alone, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, of course, I'm a person, I live a very contemplative life. I'm always journaling, reflecting, thinking through things, feeling through things. But I have to say, this only goes to a certain degree. Also, I myself still get sessions sometimes when I recognize, oh, there is a pattern that I just cannot process it. Then I do a session, um, and I recognize, okay, so the state that I have to go through, the experience of those maybe confusions or distortions that are taking place, I couldn't lead myself through it because it's so immersive. It takes so much over that I need an external person that I can trust to help me feel it through, experience it, and go through it. And I wouldn't be able to do it just on my own. Mm.
I think it's so cool what you're saying, that like you're really not dismissing any methodology. You're saying each methodology, is it like journaling or all of these things, have its place. It's more like what is needed right now. So if I'm now, looking at my practices that I have and my work that I do and my personal development, what would you recommend me as a first step to kind of make sure that I'm on the right track and that I'm not wasting my time with the work that I'm
I think this is just from my personal experience. Everything that makes amazing promises in a short amount of time,
doing? Yeah.
watch out. Real transformation is not is not taking place uh, in a couple of days or whatever. Like it can happen, but I think those. I mean, like I have been going down the new age route for quite some years, and I would say right now, with the knowledge that I have, I would be happy not to spend my time in that again, because I was misled a lot with promises, with these ideas of stepping up and getting into a new mode of frequency. And I don't say that we cannot have a brighter state of mind and emotion that is available to us, but always those ladders that we can climb, these things that we can achieve, those new dimensions we can reach, all of that sounds so amazing and fascinating. But then at a certain point, we recognize, okay, I go from workshop to workshop, from event to event, but still, I'm not coming closer to myself, and always looking in the external. So I would say everything that works, of course, but we also need to notice when things are not working, and we also need to notice when we, for example, we do a certain practice and it just doesn't feel right or just doesn't feel good, then also to listen and to say like, oh yeah, it doesn't feel right and good because I'm not ready yet. I have to push through or whatever it is. I recognize that I many times I was not listening to my boundaries and I was not listening to what my heart said. And when I was in a experience in a workshop or whatever, where my heart said like, no, that's not good. This is not good for me. I don't want to experience that. But my mind said, yeah, let's do it. Maybe afterwards, the Kundalini will rise or whatever. Um, you know, I would say like, take it easy. Listen to yourself, and also, yeah, when you recognize things are not working, just shift. And as I said, I'm a journaling um, junkie, addict. I'm journal a lot, but I also had phases where I recognizing, now I'm sitting here every morning journaling. I should go for a run. Actually, I should do something different than sitting there and listening to meditation music and journal. So really finding this inner balance where you're in, and now it needs this, and now it needs that.
Interesting. So the first step would be to really listen within and really check in with yourself. Like, what do I actually need right now, instead of going from habits or going from what other people think is the right thing, or going from what you think is the right thing. I made this experience once, like after my Vipassanas, you're supposed to meditate for 2 hours every day. And I was so, eminent about it. And at some point I was like, this is not good for me. Even though this is what we're supposed to be doing, this is not what's right for me. And then listening to that and then shifting actually, helped me more than sitting in these 2 hours that were supposed to be the right thing to do.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also because we were saying that, of course, transformation, sometimes we are going our own path and we are doing work with ourselves, but a lot of the inner work is related to other people. And I would say like we project quite a lot of things to other people. So the idea of the master, the guru, the teacher, and then we are falling in love and we are projecting all sorts of our hopes and our wishful thinking on that person. I would say always like really, really check with yourself with whom you do the work, because I had that myself. I thought, oh, like, wow, this is the greatest person ever. They have the radiance, like this is where I want to be. And then I had also very difficult experience in recognizing like, so no, this is just a normal person and they have, of course, maybe good intents, but there's also a lot of dark stuff happening still. And it's really important not to kind of, how to say that, put them on a, put them higher than they are, and yes, and undervaluing ourselves. So I think this is also something that is really important in regard to this teacher student or teacher disciple kind of idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to say to that. We can do another episode on all of that, like how to identify the right person for you, the right guide, the right leader, and how to stay away from certain experiences. Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else you would recommend people on a Monday morning now to do as the next step, apart from listening to themselves and from their heart and really taking action in that direction?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is there is no final solution. There is not one method or one technique or one thing that will finally solve everything. It is a path. The path is always humbling. Whenever we think we have it, we will recognize maybe that's not it. Doesn't mean that we are that we are not getting a lot of gifts from this deeper ground of our being. But there's also always like I would say like this quality of staying patient, of being patient with ourselves, not putting us too much under pressure. Of course, when we are in a phase of crisis, we need support, we need help, and this is really important. But not putting too much pressure onto ourselves, and also not questioning everything. Like when you experience something, it's beautiful. Don't try to kind of, is this, is this that? Should I do this with it or not? Like just saying like, oh, wow, this is happening here right now. And if it apps and you're going back to normal again, also accepting that. I think this is really about a lot of receiving, accepting, also setting boundaries. And then we become more of who we truly are and life becomes more rich and beautiful.
Mm. It sounds so beautiful, like what you're saying. It sounds really like grounding and calming, and that's kind of where it all starts, by being present really with what is and who we are and what's going on, and being kind to ourselves and being patient to ourselves. That's like the first step, which so often I have definitely gone the other direction with the inner work, Needs to go fast.
Absolutely. and the trap most of the time for people like us who always want to do the right things right and do it as best as we can, be the best version, it can put a lot of pressure onto ourselves, and this is unnecessary. I mean, like I can say it now because I have experienced it, but I take things more easy these days. Yeah, thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you. It was so insightful. Really interesting. Thank you.